Hello, I'm Mark Frydenberg from Bentley University. I am a senior lecturer in the Computer Information Systems Department and also the director of Bentley's Computer Information Systems Sandbox, a social technology learning space at the university.
Hello, I'm Stephan Caspar. I'm an assistant teaching professor in media creation and multicultural studies, and I'm working at Carnegie Mellon University, and I manage the Asquith Kenner Global Languages and Cultures Room.
We welcome you to our conversation about exploring cultures through immersive technologies. Steph and I each work in different environments involving the use of immersive technology and virtual reality. For me, we have in the CIS Sandbox at Bentley University a series of tools that students can learn about this technology because it's going to help them succeed in business in the future. I think that being able to use a VR headset today is kind of like learning how to use a mouse, 20 or 30 years ago.
Yeah, that's the same for us. The university has invested quite significantly in this technology, specifically because we're in the Department of Modern Languages and we're teaching about cultures. We want to know whether this technology can make inroads into learning about culture and language.
And so making this technology more prevalent is one way that students can be exposed to it in whatever discipline that they're studying. At the same time, running a space like this, where technology changes so quickly, has its challenges.
We set up our room about 3 years ago now, and bit by bit we're trying to create courses and encourage projects that really address the affordances of this technology. For instance, look at documentaries or travel the world through Google Earth, or even paint and draw in virtual spaces. So we're trying to explore the affordances, and we're trying to find out what this technology can do.
That's what we also need to do. In my department, we don't have a VR course, but we certainly include virtual reality in some of the technology fundamentals courses that we offer. And obviously one of the challenges in staying current is budget, because it seems like every couple of years we're buying a new headset or the latest gadget that we can. And that's a problem or a challenge sometimes. And we also don't want to keep our technology locked up because we want students to actually use it, even if it's for gaming or social purposes, as well as, if for informal learning opportunities outside the classroom. I think that the other challenge, I think, is how do we go beyond the glitz? How do we go beyond the fun part of putting this thing on and seeing the world in a way that we haven't before, to help people understand that this technology can be used either in a business context or in a cultural context to help them understand the world that they're going to be part of when they graduate.
Yes, that's definitely something. We love the wow factor. It's really rewarding, and you get that immediate engagement. But what we have to do then is start to look at the technology in a little bit more of a critical eye, and explore the affordances a little bit more deeply as we go on.
Yeah, we begin by, for students who've never used it before, having them use Tilt Brush, the tool that allows them to draw in 3D, just to get a sense of what it's like to live in that 3D space. And then from there, they can begin to see the impact that this has. Stephan, let's talk about some of the courses that we've been teaching that also use VR in different ways, and some of the tools that we've been using to have students create virtual reality. Because one of the things that I've noticed is that a lot of schools that do virtual reality as part of the curriculum buy off-the-shelf VR experiences. And I think one of the things that I've enjoyed talking with you about as we've gotten to know each other is the fact that both of our students are actually creating their own VR artifacts.
Yeah, that's right. So we, just like you, we started really with sort of off-the-shelf experiences, and that's been a really fantastic introduction. But the courses that we're teaching, they are predominantly around creation of content for virtual reality. So a teacher course called Multicultural Pittsburgh, where students are learning how to use 360 cameras, and they're going out into the community and they're making short documentaries that can be viewed inside a headset. And then there's the project itself, the actual practical aspects of filming, editing, and making it kind of ready for a headset. And I think working in this sort of multidisciplinary way is really exciting for the students. And in particular, we're looking at making documentaries that address culture and language. So we're often exploring different organizations within Pittsburgh. That aspect of exploring language and culture is for them why they're doing it. And the 360 is just a really fantastic tool to start to critically apply frameworks around perspective, empathy, all the really interesting things that filmmakers and storytellers are exploring with 360 and immersive video.
The course that I've been teaching at Bentley is Introduction to Information Technology course. And in one of the projects that we've been doing for the past several years, I've been pairing my students up with a university in Romania. It's the University of Polytechnic of Timișoara, where the students there are in a technology multimedia course. And we pair up my students with students at that school for a period of about 6 weeks throughout the semester to work together. They have to figure out which tools they want to use for collaboration and deal with navigation of time zones and the internet and technology problems, since it's also a digital literacy focus. But their job is, as we've assigned to them, is for the past couple of years, has been to create their own VR artifacts that they can then share with each other. So we've been using a tool called CoSpaces to create the virtual reality artifacts. They can take, each group goes out to the same location in their own country. So, and these are based on different categories. It could be a sporting arena, it could be a Starbucks or a coffee shop, or a museum, or a big box store, or a shopping mall. And they take a 360 image in that place, and then they add avatars and characters and dialogue to it to sort of tell the story of that place, either its historical perspective or its cultural perspective, in a way that they can share it with their partners in the other country. And then they create short videos about their conversations with each other, about what they've learned and what they've done. So not only are they working with each other to create these tools, but they also get to review each other's and critique each other's VR artifacts that they can use with CoSpaces in a cardboard viewer. So it's relatively easy for them to see it that way, or on the screen in 360. And what we've noticed is that they learn about each group learns about each other's culture in a couple of different ways. One is simply through the process of connecting and working with each other and talking with each other over a period of 6 to 8 weeks throughout the semester as they work on this project. And also, when they go to the same place in both countries, it becomes a lesson in globalization, as they see that the Starbucks in Waltham, where we are, looks pretty much just like the Starbucks in Timișoara, except for maybe the menu is in a different language, but the logo is the same, and the signs are the same, and the products in many cases are similar. And so they can see the impact of that in a very tangible and a very real way.
We use Google Earth quite a bit. Certainly, there's real joy in students, especially our international students, taking colleagues back to their hometown, showing where they're from, the places that they hang out. And you're absolutely right. A lot of the time, what actually surprises students is the similarities, that a city might be laid out in a similar way. It might have libraries and residential areas and coffee shops and offices. And it's a really interesting way of understanding the world in terms of these spaces. I think you can put that headset on and you can take yourself to that location. And what we're wondering is whether that might even better prepare you for when you go to visit another country. We're really interested in seeing whether it might reduce a little bit the culture shock or a sense of kind of difference that students experience when they go abroad. I mean, unfortunately now at the moment they can't travel as they want to. So immersive technologies have a real place at the moment in terms of sharing space and geography.
No, you're right. Especially now with COVID, we have this opportunity to provide this alternative form of global education. And you mentioned Google Earth. When I begin our Talk Tech project each year, I'll load up Google Earth and we'll travel to the university where we are to see the campus, and see the city and the downtown and the area where the students who are going to be working from live, so they have a chance to get a sense of, you know, what that place looks like, and also where it is in the world. For some people, they may not be aware of the impact of time zones. And so it's time zones, it's language, it's architecture, all of these come to bear when you're working in a project like this, and meeting regularly online and using different communication tools to foster that communication and collaboration really helps bring out the technology literacy skills needed for success as well.
Yeah, I think so. What I'd show us two examples. One where students do a treasure hunt around Moscow in Google Earth VR. So they're given clues, they're given locations, places to visit. In fact, you have to go and meet your pen pal, who says they'll be meeting you on the corner of a street, and they're wearing a particular coloured sweater, and they're carrying a bag, and you have to go and find that person. And in the process of doing that and moving from location to location, you find out a little bit more about the city itself, and even some of its history, and you know, some of those places of interest. And then the second one is students who do an internship in Hong Kong every year, going to visit Hong Kong in using Google Earth VR. And there again, we asked them to look at a number of things. And in particular, especially for language students, we're asking them to look at ways that language is commodified. So they can understand that Hong Kong has many different cultures, many different areas, and that these can sometimes be defined by the languages that you see, the signs that you read on over shop windows. There's actually a lot of information right there in the image. And I think this sense of immersion just helps them to analyze that in a richer and more engaged way.
Let's talk a little bit about some of the tools that we've been using. I know we mentioned CoSpaces and some video tools. What are some other tools that you've used for virtual reality? And then we can talk a little bit about augmented reality and some of the tools and applications that we've done with that as well.
Yeah, absolutely. So I think we have a suite of different tools. We're using, like I said, a lot Google Earth VR, which I really think still is a sort of killer app for immersive technologies, especially if you're teaching about language and culture. But also we mentioned Tilt Brush as well, where students are able to draw and really understand the 3D space in a very kind of engaging way. There are lots of documentaries, things that are off the shelf that we're quite interested in, especially those that often deal with difficult subjects or cultural subjects. So the BBC have an Anne Frank immersive experience. There's also a really interesting experience called I Am a Man, which talks about the civil rights movement. And there's a lovely video and experience called We Will Wait, which talks to the refugee crisis in the Mediterranean. So those sorts of experiences are really, they're very new for students. They've often not seen anything like it. And it's a really interesting and engaging way to talk about some of the subjects that they deal with.
We've also sent students to museums in both countries. And I know that a lot of museums offer virtual tours as well, so they could see the impact of what they're doing as a very small special case of another use of virtual reality in the world. We also have been using tools like Blipper and Roar and Layer for scanning images and putting up more information about those to create augmented reality images, especially around digital storytelling in both cases, where you can set an image and scan it and it'll tell you more about the location. And I know there's a lot of places use QR codes on statues in the physical location, so you can learn more about it that way. Even now, being able to scan an image and have students do research about that place will help bring those photos to life in it with additional context about them.
Yeah, augmented reality for us has been a really interesting way in, especially now at the moment, whilst the room is closed and we can't get headsets to as many people as we'd like to. Actually, we have dropped off a few headsets to people via sort of contactless exchange, and we have encouraged students to buy Google Cardboard when they can. But they can use their smartphones to view augmented reality apps, and these have been really interesting for them. Just something as simple as just a line, where they're able to draw lines and images and text in an augmented space and view that through their phones. These are really interesting things to explore. I should mention as well, before I forget, ThingLink, which we've used lots. And this is really interesting. So we're asking them to create 360 images using Google Street View. So they're stitching together images into a 360, which they can then upload to ThingLink, and then they can add hotspots, links to other media and other sites, and even join different videos and photos together to make virtual tours. So these are all things that the students have access to, can use on their phones and using the tools that are to hand. And it's a really interesting way to explore these technologies.
And for educators in these days, it's free, which is also really important too. How has your project changed over the years since you started?
I think it's interesting because we talked about that initial wow factor, and we were probably a little bit guilty about it too. So I think as the conversation about immersive technologies has got sort of richer and deeper, we've got a better appreciation of what actually is effective and what isn't. And I think there was just time as well to get to know the technologies, get to know a lot of the content. It's still moving at an incredible speed. There's new content being released, weekly, and it's part of our role, I think, as educators, is to try these things and see how they can be used in different learning contexts. And that's quite a battle, I'd say. There's a real explosion in content, and with both augmented and virtual reality. So I think I'd like to think that we're providing a little bit more nuance, that we're having richer and deeper conversations. Especially, we're challenging conceptions like empathy and understanding, and presence. Definitely, we're having some really interesting discussions about those sorts of things, and we're also, I think, starting to make links with other content creators and talk more specifically about our own educational needs. So, yeah, there's definitely a lot of movement. How about you guys?
When Diana and Donian at Timisoara and I began our project, actually we started 10 years ago simply by having our students connect on Skype, because that was a big thing then. And over the years, it became, okay, well, now everybody's talking on Skype, so let's actually have them talk to each other and do something useful together. And so we've looked at different technology trends over the years. And then we first started doing work with augmented reality when Pokemon Go became all the rage on everybody's smartphone. And we said, we got to be able to do something like this in class. And we looked at tools to have them create their own AR examples. And we started with that just by having students take a photo of an object in their home country and then share that photo along with so that when they scanned it, you could see the videos or the information about that they put up around it to explain it as part of a digital story. And then we moved into using virtual reality tools with co-spaces when cardboard headsets became very accessible throughout the world. Like we sent a few over to Romania and as well, so they could also access them. And we started looking at both uses of VR in business and then VR as a way to share culture. And we found in many cases, we would look at virtual reality in different industries, again, in both countries, as well as visiting locations of cultural interest. And that's sort of how the project evolved. I think it's going to be interesting to see what we do this fall, given COVID. We'll probably, I don't know how easy it will be to send students out to take their own 360 images. So we may resort to doing things like you did with grabbing images from Google Earth and putting them together and then telling the stories about them. in that way, because I think that's a nice way to actually get the visuals and be able to tell the story, and also explore those places in a different way.
Yeah, I think it's an exciting time, and we're finding that working with these technologies taps into lots of different skill sets for students. So often students that I get come from a range of different backgrounds. I have language students for sure, but I also have engineers, but students from fine art and design, and they all come with particular skills that we can tap into for these projects. And I think having teams where students can have that appreciation of those different skill sets is really, really fantastic. And the last thing really is that for us, having this focus around language and culture is incredibly helpful. It's something to point the technology at. We're often accused as learning technologists and educators of putting the technology first. But really, rooms like ours are there to serve this purpose around helping to create global citizens and active, engaged change agents. And I think immersive technologies can help us, can put us on the road to doing this in really interesting and engaging ways.
I think the message is that in both of our projects, technology isn't the end, but the means to telling a story. Technology is the tool that we can use to share and create experiences that would otherwise not have been possible. And I think that's what makes both of our projects generalizable and applicable across the curriculum. The reality is that students need some level of digital literacy skills in order to be able to interact with the media that they create, getting the video off of their phone or onto their laptop and up on the internet, and learning how to deal with files in different formats, and all of the nuts and bolts things that they need to do. That's the background. The foreground is the story that they tell with the work that they create. And the more courses that offer media creation projects, I think the greater appreciation there will be of virtual reality in education throughout the curriculum. And whether it's virtual reality or augmented reality, the projects that use these skills will help students in order to become digital storytellers and appreciate the world that they live in ways that we haven't seen before.
Absolutely, I quite agree. So Mark, if we wanted to find out more about your projects, what would the best place to where should we go?
So we'll put some links up, but you can visit talktechproject.net, which is the website for the TalkTech project that I've described, and to learn a little bit more about the CIS sandbox at Bentley University, which is a technology social learning space. Or now a technology socially distant learning space, since there's only 11 people who can be in there at a time. You can visit us at cissandbox.com, and to learn about CoSpaces, the tool that we've used a lot is cospaces.io is the website for that.
Great. And for ours, we have a website on the CMU site, which is for the Global Languages and Cultures Room. But also we have a YouTube channel, and we'll put the links up to that as well. You can see some of the end results, some of the projects that the students ended up creating. Yeah, so it's been really lovely chatting to you, Mark.
Thank you so much. And with you as well, please check out the links that we've put up, and stay in touch with us on social media.
Yeah, okay. Thank you very much.
Thanks for joining us. Have a good day.